So we've heard a lot about Heartbleed, but we haven't heard about Heartbleed being used to bypass two-factor authentication.
Yes.
But it's happened.
Exactly.
So what's up?
So security nightmare sparked by the Heartbleed OpenSSL vulnerability. So Mandiant, who are the security researching company, if you remember, they're the ones that identified APT1, the team of Chinese hackers that broke into the New York Times.
Yep.
One of their clients that they were investigating after Heartbleed, they found that an attacker was able to leverage the Heartbleed vulnerability against a VPN appliance owned by that customer in order to hijack multiple active user sessions and bypass the two-factor authentication.
No good.
The attack bypassed both the organization's multi-factor authentication and the VPN client software used to validate that the system connecting to the VPN was owned by the organization and that was running specific security software. Right, so they had rules on their VPN that saying you can only connect if you have our security software installed on your system.
Not too
and
uncommon.
Making sure that your machine's secure before it even gets on our VPN. But the attacker was able to steal the token that's passed at the very end as proof that you have all this stuff. By stealing that, they were able to connect. So the attacker repeatedly sent the malformed heartbeat requests to the web server that was running the VPN device that had been compiled using a vulnerable version of OpenSSL, and was able to obtain the active session tokens of all the currently authenticated users.
So they read the memory.
Yeah. So they just kept hitting it until they got a bunch of tokens, and then they used those tokens to hijack active sessions.
Wow. This is the first I've heard of something like this.
The attackers successfully hijacked multiple active user sessions and convinced the VPN concatenator that the attacker was actually the legitimately authenticated user.
Wow.
After connecting to the VPN, the attacker attempted to move laterally through the network and escalate privilege within the victim organization and do all kinds of damage.
Do a little island hopping.
Yeah.
Why not?
And so you know that the place that this happened to hired Mandiant proactively before it even happened, probably, because I think Mandiant's making that software that verifies the systems they were talking about. And so you know that this was a big place that was targeted by very sophisticated attackers.
Yeah, if you're hiring Mandiant. In fact, Mandiant says their report today is the first publicly known real-world attack on an organization providing remote access via Heartbleed. And recently, I think it was in an offline conversation I had. Somebody was saying to me, I think Heartbleed is way overblown. We haven't seen any big fallout. There's been no real-world examples of it that he knows of. And I think this right here it shows you what you can get when you can. I mean, when you can read the memory of a remote system. I mean, this is crazy to me. And getting around two-factor.
Getting around two-factor authentication by itself is a huge win.
Yeah.
Let alone being able to just bypass authentication altogether. And a lot of it comes down to that last in, first out memory allocator, which is exactly why the OpenBSD people wanted to fork OpenSSL before Heartbleed.
Yep.
Because that's just not the right way to do that.
It all comes down to that. I guess some operating systems it might not have mattered if OpenSSL was doing its own memory allocator, right? I mean,
well, they were only doing it because certain operating systems, the memory allocator in the OS was too slow.
Yeah, so, that's I mean,
but they sacrificed everybody's security.
Yeah, exactly.
For support on those specific operating systems.
Not worth it. Yeah. And so of course, I mean, bad on these guys for not patching their S.
Yep. And if you stay tuned to the roundup, we have a couple of extra stories about where Heartbleed was actually used.
Oh, very good.
So this isn't the only one.
So did you have like a big patching session?
Yes, although I was not actually vulnerable to Heartbleed itself.
Oh.
But there was there was second vulnerability that came out at the same time?
Yes.
As part of the same announcement?
Yes.
Well, it wasn't a huge deal. I patched all my stuff anyway.
I only have a few systems now that I manage directly.
Yep.
And the day it came out, I think the patches were out and I went out and did them. And I got to think, like, why would you not patch at this point? Like, what is your excuse? Is it corporate bureaucracy? Like,
well, it can depend on, in this case, everybody's worried about their web server and they did that. But what about appliances?
Yeah.
You don't know what version of OpenSSL
and it does sound like this was an appliance.
Yes, this was an appliance.
Yeah.
And this probably happened immediately, right? They might not have had time to patch it.
Yeah.
By the time they got the announcement, and then in this case, they would have to wait for a patch from
a hardware vendor.
appliance vendor.
Yeah, which that could, who knows how long, if the device is even supported. And by the way, are you in a support contract? Because if you're not, you're going to need to pay up all of your missed time that you were supposed to be in a support contract before we'll give you patches. Have you ever been through that runaround?
Never been in that runaround.
So this happens all the time with these hardware devices. Is they'll have yearly support contracts, and if you miss a year, you back pay. And so not only do you have to pay for the year you want support, but you have to pay for the year you miss support. So in some cases, this is thousands of dollars before you'll get updates to stuff like this. That's a massive problem. And it's that kind of crap that's going to keep Heartbleed around. And it's that kind of crap that makes me not recommend those devices to, well, used to. I'm not in the position anymore, but I used to, always try to push people away from those types of devices. And one of them was Checkpoint Firewall.